welcome to Fox Gaming and episode 11 of the Darkness of Moria solo battle companies campaign. In this episode we will be playing the mission Baggage Train, and the evil battle companies will try to have their wargs, or baggage wargs in this case, get over to the other side of the battlefield. The good battle companies will have to try to stop them to win the scenario. The wargs will use the rules for baggage ponies that is described in the scenario, and that means that they have a move of 8, fight of 1, and a strength of 3 and defense of 4, 1 attack, 1 wound and 2 courage. They will not count as an experience kill if they get killed in combat or by shooting, and they will not be counted towards breaking of the battle company. Each of the wargs are carrying a piece of cargo, and Cirith Ungol will win, or the evil battle companies will win, if they can get 3 of them over to the other side. It's the cargo that's important, not the wargs. So if the wargs are killed, any model can pick up the cargo and move over or off the battlefield themselves. If the good battle companies can get control of 3 of the cargoes, they will win. Alright, so this first match will be with Cirith Ungol and Osgiliath, and the next battle will be between Karna and the Last Alliance. May the best battle companies win! Alright, getting straight into it. The priority for the first turn goes to the evil side. Alright, so that is movement done. The evil side moved up their full distance as fast as they could. They have to get over this plane after all, over to the other side. And over here, the good battle companies just moved into the middle, tried to link up with each other to gather their forces against this evil that comes closer each turn. And the ranger over here moved half to be able to shoot, and so did the ranger on the other side over there. Balarsian is doing a little bit of ranging, going backwards and trying to get the evil battle company from behind. Now they have no shooting, so on to good shooting next. Starting with this ranger, he will fire at the orc with shield in the middle, in the front over there, needing a 4 up because he moved and he misses. Next we have this ranger on the other side who will target the same orc in the middle, needing a 4 up to hit because he moved and he hits. And that is of course Virlin, the hero, and he will need 6s to wound because of the shield, and he gets the 6, slaying the orc. That's an early kill. Next we have Malarsian, and he will try to snipe the enemy leader Krishla over there. And remember, he shoots twice because of his expert archer rule. So let's see what he gets. Getting a 3 up to hit, and hits on both shots. He will need 5s to wound, and he gets 1 5 and 1 4. He will use 1 point of might, turning his 4 into a 5, and that means he causes 2 wounds, and Krishla has only 1 wound and 1 fate, so he is slain. Priority for the next turn goes to the good forces. Alright, so that is movement done. The good forces are a bit spread, but they're trying to link up in the middle with the 2 knights and the warriors closing in behind. Now the rangers, or 1 ranger did not move to be able to shoot at full capacity, and the other one moved closer to link up with the Mantir. The other ranger on the other side stood still, and so did Malarsian, but he got charged, or not charged, but he is soon to be engaged by the spider, who sees that he is a dangerous hero to have behind their lines. The rest of the forces moved up full to try to get as fast as possible over to the other side. Now let's get into the shooting phase for the good forces. Starting with the Mantir, he will fire his bow into Murphus over there, needing a 3 up to hit because he stood still, and he hits. Now he needs a 5 to wound, and he gets a 2. Next we have this ranger who will fire into this Urukai with the 2-handed weapon, needing a 4 up to hit because he moved and he misses. Virlin is next, and he will fire into the spear support in the front over there, needing a 3 up to hit because he stood still, and he hits. Now he will need 5s to kill, and he gets a 3, that's not good enough. Malarsian is next, and he will fire at the approaching giant spider, needing a 3 up to hit because he is awesome, but he misses with both shots. No fights just yet, so we'll go to priority for the next turn, and that goes to the good forces. Alright, that is movement done, and these two spiders went up against these rangers over here, trying to take them out because they are afraid of their shooting. The rest of the main forces moved up the middle with Murphys and all of the 5 wargs close in behind. This is where the main battle will happen, and we have this ranger over here moving closer a little bit, but still able to fire, and Malarsian went into combat with that giant spider because he could not get away anyway. So let's get into the shooting phase for the good warriors. Starting with this ranger, he will fire into the giant spider, needing a 4 up to hit, and he hits. Now he will need 5s to wound, and he gets a 3. That's not good enough. Dimantir will fire into the same spider, needing a 4 up, and he hits. Now he will need 5s to wound, and he gets a 4. Dimantir do not have might, so he cannot do anything about that. The ranger on the other side, Virlin, will fire into the spear support closest to him, needing a 4 up to hit, and he hits. Now he will need 5s to kill, and he gets a 4, and I don't think he has might either. No, he doesn't, so that is shooting done, and we go into the fight phase, the giant spider against Malarsian. Malarsian will set the bar, and he gets a 6, and that means he wins on fight value. Alright, so Malarsian can make strikes against the giant spider. He has a strength of 3 against the defense of 3, so he will need force on his 2 attacks. And he gets 1 6 and 1 3, and he has 1 might point remaining. So he will use that might point, turning that into a 4, killing the giant spider. Alright, so we have a new priority roll, and this time it goes to the evil forces. Alright, movement is done. The giant spiders went into combat with the rangers as anticipated. Murphys and a warrior of or a Urukai warrior went into combat over here against Tylero, Doritor, and a veteran. And we have Joshua who got charged by the cavalry, and another Uruk charged as well. Over here we have some 2-on-2 fights and 1 3-on-2 fight. Malarsian just followed behind. He will try to fire at the wargs, and so will this ranger over here. So let's get into the shoot phase. Alright, so Malarsian will start. He will fire into the wargs with the cargo, and he needs a 3 up to hit. He scores 1 hit. Now he will need 5s to kill one of them, and he gets a 3, and he has no might left. Next we have Virlin, and he does not have a clear sight to the cargo wargs, so he will try to fire at the spear support in the back over there, needing a 4 up to hit, and he misses. Going into the fight phase, we will start with this ranger against this giant spider, and the giant spider will set the bar, getting a 6. The ranger will respond with a 4, but that's not good enough. The spider will need 4s to kill, and he gets double 2s. Next we have a giant spider against Dimantir, and the giant spider sets the bar, getting a 6 once again. Dimantir needs a 6 here, but he gets a 4. Next we have Murphys against Tylero and Doritor, and Murphys gets the bestial charge. With his 3 attacks he will set the bar, and he gets 1 1 and a 2. That is incredibly bad. Next we have Doritor, and he gets a 6, and that means that they win the fight. Alright, so Doritor will strike at Murphys first. He will need a 5 up to wound because of his strength of 3 against Murphys' defense of 4. So, and he gets a 6, and that is a wound on Murphys. Tylero is next, and he has the strength of 4, so he will need force. Can he do it? He gets a 6 as well. 2 wounds on Murphys, and Murphys will have to take a fate roll, and he fails, which means he loses 2 wounds. And that is enough to kill him. Murphys has a point of might, but that is not enough to turn this 1 into a 4, unfortunately. But so he's killed. An incredible start for the good forces. Next we have a Urukai with 2-handed weapon against a veteran, and the Urukai sets the bar, getting a 1, and the veteran gets a 3. The veteran will need 5s to kill, and he gets a 4. Next we have Joshok against the Knight of Minas Tirith, and Joshok will set the bar. He gets a 6, and that is really important because the Knight has charged. Can he do something about it? He gets a 6 as well, but I believe he loses on fight value. Joshok has a fight of 5, so he wins the fight. Alright, will Joshok hit the steed or the rider? He will hit the rider on a 6. Needing 5s to kill, and he gets a 1. Next we have a Knight of Minas Tirith against an Uruk with 2-handed weapon, and the Knight will set the bar, getting a 5, and the Uruk gets a 4, which is turned to a 3, so he loses the fight. Now, the Uruk is knocked prone, and because the knight has a lance, he gets a +1 to wound, and that means that he needs force to wound the Uruk, and he gets a 6, slaying him. Next we have Michaelir and Idro against Jonner and 2 of his friends, and Michaelir will set the bar. He gets a 4 and Idro gets a 1. Now we have Jonner and he gets a 5, which means that they win the fight. There can be used might points in this scenario, so we will just roll the other orcs as well. The one with shield gets a 2 and the one with spear gets a 4. And in addition to this, Jonner can make Michaelir re-roll his die, but the thing is, Michaelir has 2 points of might. He could use both of them to win the fight on a 6, but Jonner has a fight of 6, so he can just use 1 might point of his own. So no might is spent and they lose the fight, and that is because Michaelir rather will be using his might points to save himself if he gets a bad fate roll. Alright, Jonner will strike at Michaelir and he needs I believe he will need a 6 because of the shield wall, and he does not get it. And the orc with shield will need a 6 as well, and he doesn't get it. The one with spear, no. Lastly, we have Hobtor and a friend against 2 orcs, and Hobtor sets the bar. He gets a 2 and his friend with shield gets a 3. The orc with shield gets a 5, which means they win the fight. Getting the benefit of the shield wall, the orcs will need 6s to wound, and they get double 1s. Priority for the next turn goes to the good side, because evil had it last time. Alright, that is movement done, and the rangers went into combat with each of their spiders as they cannot get away from their 10-inch movement. Doritor went into to combat with a warg baggage train guy, and so did Tylero. The veteran went into combat over here, and the knight tied up Joshok and Drog, the new hero for Cirith Ungol. And over here we have mostly the same fights except for the knight who charged into the orc with shield. This ranger over here, Virlin, stood still. He will try to fire at the spear support in the back over there, and Melarsian moved in closer to try to do some shenanigans. Let's get into the shooting phase. Starting with Virlin shooting at the orc with spear, he will need a 3 up to hit because he stood still, and he hits. Now he will need 5s to kill, and he gets a 2. Melarsian is next, and he will fire at this baggage train warg, needing 3 up to hit, and he gets 2 hits. Now he will need 5s to kill, and he gets 1 6 and 1 5, slaying 2 of the baggage train wargs. The baggages are the luggage is represented by these 2 markers. Let's get into the fight phase over here, starting with this ranger. He will set the bar against the giant spider, getting a 1. Whoa, that is not good. And the 2 attacks from the spider is a 5, which means that they win the fight. Needing 4s to kill the ranger, and gets 1 4. The ranger is slain. Next we have Diamantir against the giant spider, and the giant spider sets the bar, getting a 2. Diamantir responds with a 5. Needing 4s to wound the spider, and he gets a 2. Next we have Doritor against a baggage warg, and Doritor sets the bar, getting a 3, and the baggage warg gets a 2. Doritor will need 5s to kill, and he gets a 1. Tylero is next, and the baggage warg gets a 3, Tylero gets a 6. Tylero has a strength of 4, so he will need 4s to kill the baggage warg, and he gets a 1. Next we have a veteran against an Uruk, and the Uruk sets the bar, getting a 2, which is turned to a 1, and the veteran gets a 4. The veteran will need 5s to kill, and he gets the 5. The orc is slain. Next we have a knight of Minas Tirith against these 2 hero models, and the knight will set the bar, getting a 6. Joshok is next, and he gets a 2, and his friend gets a 5, and that means they lose the fights. They are both knocked prone, and the first attack goes on Drog, the new hero, and the knight will need 4s to wound him, and getting 1 5. Fate roll for Drog, and he saves. Next, the knight will try to wound Joshok, needing 4s as well, getting 1 5 and 1 2, and Joshok needs to try to save this, and he gets a 6, saving himself. Next we have this knight against an orc with shield, and the knight will set the bar, getting a 3, and the one with shield would be shielding in this case. He gets a 6, and he is good. Next we have Jonner and a friend against Michael Lear and Idro. And Jonner will set the bar. In this case he gets a 1 and his friend gets a 2. Michael Lear gets a 5, which means they win the fight. Michael Lear will strike against Jonner and he will need 5s to wound. He gets 1-5, that is amazing. Jonner will try and save and he saves. Idro is next and he will also need 5s and he gets a 4 and has no might to do anything about that. Lastly we have Hobtor and a friend against 2 orcs and the 2 orcs sets the bar getting a 4. Hobtor gets a 5, which means they win the fight. They will need 5s to slay the orc and they get 1-6, slaying the orc with shield. Alright, so this is not looking good for the evil forces, but they still have 2 spiders who are the wild cards over here. Now let's see who gets priority this turn, and it is equal, which means that the evil battle company will get it. Alright, so that is movement done. The evil battle company tried to get their wargs around the enemy to get off the board in later turns. But in addition to this, they tried to tie up as many models as possible to make that happen. The spider went into combat once again with Dimantir, and we have this spider who went into combat over here with Doritor. And Malarsian and the other ranger moved closer to try to grab these objectives, and we have some fights over here as well. No shooting this turn, except for Malarsian, of course, who can move and shoot, so he will shoot at the orc with spear that spear supports against this knight. Remember, the knights did not charge this turn, so that fight can be difficult for them. Malarsian will fire, he will need a 3 up to hit, and he hits with both shots. Now he will need 5s to kill the orc, and he gets a 3 high. Getting into the fight phase, starting with the giant spider against Dimantir. The giant spider gets double 6s, and Dimantir needs a 6 here, he gets a 1. Needing 4s to kill Dimantir, and he gets 1-4. Dimantir needs to take a fate roll over here, and he fails, so he is slain. Next we have Doritor against the giant spider, and Doritor will be shielding. He gets a 3 and the giant spider needs a 4 here and he gets the 6. Needing 5s to wound Doritor because of his toughness of 6, and he gets the 6. Doritor, can you save yourself? No, you cannot. And I believe, do you have any might? Yes, you do. So you can make that 3 into a 4, saving yourself. Next we have Tylero against Joshok, and Tylero sets the bar with a 3 and Joshok gets a 5. No point in using might as Joshok has a higher fight value, so he will win the fight making strikes against Tylero. Needing 5s to wound and getting a 2. Next we have a warg against a veteran, and the warg sets the bar getting a 3 and the veteran gets a 3 as well, but wins on fight value. You will need 5s to kill the warg and he gets a 1. Next we have Drog against a knight, and Drog will set the bar getting a 3, which is turned to a 2, and the knight gets a 2, and that means that Drog wins on fight value. Normally he will need 5s, but because of his 2-handed weapon he will need 4s. Let's see, wait, first we have to check if he hits the horse or the rider, wait, once again, you can choose in close combat. When you shoot you have to roll, but you can choose in close combat, and Drog will choose the rider, needing 4s to kill it, and he gets a 3. Next we have 2 orcs against a knight, and the knight sets the bar getting a 2 and the 2 orcs gets a 5. Going for the rider, they will need 6s and they get 2 5s. Next we have Jonner against Michael Lear and Idro, and Jonner sets the bar getting a 3 and Michael Lear gets a 2 and Idro gets a 3 as well. Jonner has the higher fight value, so he will win. No need for might over here because of the same reasons as last time. And here's a neat little trick. When you back away, if you put yourself in a position to be in a shield wall like this, you see he has 2 in base contact, you will get the shield wall rule in effect, which means that Jonner will need 6s instead of 5s to wound Michael Lear. Let's see if he can do it. He gets a 5, but he can turn that into a 6 using a might point. Michael Lear will use a fate roll and he saves. Lastly, we have 1 orc with spear against 2 warriors of Minas Tirith. One is a hero, and the orc spearman gets a 4 and the Minas Tirith soldiers gets a 5. Needing 5s to kill the spearman and getting a 4. Priority for the next turn goes to the good side. Alright, so after movement, 2 of the wargs got closer to the table edge, and they may outrun the enemy if they cannot do anything about it. They still have to kill some, or the evil side will have to get one more off. So the giant spider went to combat with this veteran who tangled up this warg. They need to get 3 off plus a model, and that may happen if this goes unchecked. Now Tylero and Doritor went into combat with this giant spider, and we have some other interesting fights as well. The ranger Malarsian and Virlin went into contact with the objective markers, controlling them for the good side. Let's get into the fight phase. Alright, so going into the fight phase, we take this one first, and this veteran is the one with shield, even though it's not on the model, so he will be shielding, and he gets a 5. The giant spider responds with a 5 as well, but he has lower fight value. And the warg gets a 5 as well, but he has also a lower fight value. So the good side wins this fight. Next we have this fight over here, and the giant spider sets the bar with a 3, and Doritor responds with a 4, which means they win the fight. They will need 4s to wound the spider, starting with Doritor. He gets a 5, that is 1 wound, and Tylero, can you do something about this? Getting a 4, which means the giant spider is slain. Next we have the knight against Joshok, and the knight sets the bar, getting a 6, and Joshok needs a 6 here, he gets a 5. Joshok has a point of might, and he will use that to win the fight. He has the higher fight value after all. Striking at the rider, he will need 5s, and he gets a 3. Next we have Drog against the Knight of Minas Tirith, and Drog sets the bar with a 1. That is terrible, and the Knight of Minas Tirith gets a 4. Doubling his attacks against Drog and getting a +1 bonus to wound, he will need 4s to kill, and he gets all of them, so Drog is slain. Next we have Michaelir and Idro against 2 orcs, and Michaelir sets the bar, getting a 1. Idro gets a 1 as well, and the 2 orcs, they get a 6, winning the fight. They will need 6s to wound, and they get nothing. Next we have Jonner against a warrior of Minas Tirith, and Jonner goes first, getting a 4, and the warrior of Minas Tirith gets a 4 as well, but loses on fight value. Jonner needs 5s, and he gets a 2. Lastly we have Hobtor against an orc, and Hobtor sets the bar, he gets a 5, and the orc gets a 6, winning the fight. Needing 6s to kill Hobtor, and he gets a 4. Alright, so here's the deal. Cirith Ungol has been halved, and that means that they will start taking courage tests. And that is unfortunate for them, but we will see who gets priority. It may be a different result if the good side gets it. Let's see, and the evil side gets the priority, which means we will need to roll some courage tests. Starting with the heroes, and Jonner is first. He will need a 7 to stand his ground, and he does. And that means that this giant spider and this baggage warg is good, and so are these 2 warriors over here. Next we have Jonner, and he needs a 7 as well, I believe. Yes, he does. He needs a 7 here, and he gets a 6, but he will use a will point and makes a 7, so he's good. And so is this warrior over here. But these 2 ponies, or not ponies, there are original ponies in the scenario. These 2 wargs need to take courage tests as well, and they only have a courage of 2. Let's start with the right one. He needs an 8, and he gets a 7, and that means that he flees. And the other one gets a 6, so he will flee as well, dropping their cargo. Okay, so here we have the movement. This veteran got into contact with this object and claimed this for his own. And this warg went closer to the table edge, trying to outrun his opponents. And we have a lot of other fights as well over here. The orcs try to maximize how they charge to get as good combats as possible. Malarsian took his object and moved away from the main battle. Let's get into the fight phase. The giant spider will set the bar, the knight got charged by him, so no extra attack, and he gets a 2. The knight is next, getting a 4, which means they win the fight. The knight will not get a bonus from his lance this turn, and he has a strength of 3, so he will need 4s to wound, and he gets a 6, that is a wound. Doritor is next, and he gets a 4 as well, which means that this spider is slain. Next we have Joshok against Tylero and a knight, and Joshok will set the bar, he gets a 3, Tylero is next, he gets a 1, and the knight gets a 4. The knight will need 5s to wound Joshok, and he gets the 6. Joshok is out of fate, but he has 2 wounds and now 1 wound remaining. Tylero will need a 4-up here to kill him, and he gets a 4, and Joshok is slain. Next we have this orc against these 2 Michael Lear and Idro, and the orc sets the bar getting a 5, Michael Lear is next getting a 1, and Idro gets a 4. Needing 6s to wound Michael Lear and gets a 5. Jonner is next against this Warrior of Minas Tirith, and Jonner sets the bar getting a 5. The Warrior of Minas Tirith gets a 1. Jonner will need 5s to kill, and he gets the 6. The warrior is slain. Next we have Hobtor against an orc with spear. Hobtor sets the bar getting a 4. The orc with spear gets a 5. The orc will need 6s to wound, and he does it. And this is a hero, it's Hobtor after all, so he can try to save himself, and he does not, so he is slain. Lastly, we have Virlin against an orc with spear, and the orc will set the bar getting a 3. Virlin gets a 6, winning the fight. Alright, it comes down to this. If Virlin can slay the orc this turn, they will win, and he will need a 5-up. Can he do it? And he gets the 5. The orc is slain, and the Cirith Ungol warband is down to 25% or below, and that means that the game is finished, and Osgiliath has won, claiming 3 objectives for themselves. Alright, getting into the next battle between Karna and the Last Alliance. Karna has deployed as they should in the middle over here, and the Last Alliance has divided their forces with half over there and half on this side. So let's get into priority for the first turn, and it goes to... oh, it's an equal roll, so we'll have to roll again, and it goes to good. So I forgot about this, but the Last Alliance has almost 50 points less than the Karna warband, so they have been given 2 extra models over here, one man with spear and shield and 1 elf with bow, and on the other side 1 elf with a shield and spear and a hand and a half sword. So the fights are more equal now. So the Last Alliance just moved in towards the middle, trying to link up, and the Serpent Horde moved their entire force forward, keeping their cargo close in behind. There's no shooting because everyone moves full, so let's go into the next turn. Priority goes to the evil forces. Alright, so the evil forces are legging it towards the other table edge, going full distance even with their bows. The Last Alliance are moving closer to the middle, but these warriors with bow and Simonir stood still to fire at the oncoming warband of Karna. Alright, going into the shooting phase for the Last Alliance, they have 3 elves with a bow, and remember, the strength of the elven bow is 3, so they should go for defense 3 models, which Karna do have. All of their watchers of Karna has a defense value of 3, so they will target them. Starting with Jacksonell in the front here, because there are no in the way rolls. The 2 elves, who is not a warrior, will fire first, needing 3 up to hit, and they get 2 hits. Now they need 4 up to wound Jacksonell, and they get 2 6s. That is incredible. Let's start with the fate roll for Jacksonell. He has to save this one, getting a 4, which means he saves. Jacksonell has another fate point and needs to save this one as well, and he does not. Do he have enough might? He has only 1 point of might, and that means that Jacksonell is slain early. Next we have Simonir, and he has a clear shot to Jeremiah. Now he will try to wound him. First he will need to hit, needing a 3 up, and he gets a 2. But remember, he has a free point of might every turn, so he gets a 3, scoring a hit. And now he will need 4 up to wound, and he gets a 2. Going into priority for the next turn, this time it goes to the good side. Alright, so movement is done. These archers moved half, and the other ones moved their full distance, trying to link up in the middle. The evil forces moved up as well, but their archers are moving half to be able to fire, except for this one, Jacobim, who went full to get over on this flank over here. Now, one trick to tell you is if you place your archers like this. Remember, archers can fire in 2 ranks if they are in base-to-base contact. If they stand like this, they can fire in all directions. Over there, and even over there. So keep that in mind when you deploy your forces in your games. Getting into the shoot phase for the good forces, the regular elves with a bow will fire at this watcher over here, as he has only 1 wound and defense 3. They will need force to hit because they moved and they get no hits. Simonir will fire at the same one, needing a 4 up to hit, and he hits. Now he will need force once again to kill it, and they get a 5, which means that the watcher is slain. The Haradrim warriors over here will fire back at Simonir in the front over there. They need a 5 up to hit because they moved and they get 2 hits. Now they will need 6s to wound and they get a 5 but 1, which means they can reroll because of poisoned arrows, and it's still a 1. So no wounds coming through for the evil side. Alright, priority for the next turn goes to evil force. And that is movement done for both sides, and the evil battle company went into combat over here and they got countercharged by some other elves and men, but they kept out of the distance of these 5 warriors to get some favorable fights in, and the baggage wargs went in behind them to get some protection from the good battle company. The good forces had their archers standing still, and so did the evil forces. So on to shooting phase for Karna. Jacobim will fire first into Simonir, needing a 4 up to hit because he stood still and he misses. Next we have bow number 1 who will fire at Simonir as well, needing a 4 up to hit, and he hits. Now he has a strength of 2, so he will need 6s to wound, and it doesn't get it. The other archer is a archer of Karna and has a shoot of 3+, so he needs 3s and he gets a 6, which means that he will hit. Now he will need a 6 again and it doesn't get it. Firing back at the enemy archers, Simonir will start going after the one in front, who is an archer of Karna, and he needs a 3 up to hit. He gets a 2, but uses his 3 points of might, turning that into a 3. Now he will need 5s to kill, and he gets a 3. The other 2 archers will fire as well, prioritizing the closest one, needing a 3 up to hit, and they get 1 hit. Now they will need 5s to wound, and they get 1 5, slaying the warrior. Going into the fight phase, the new hero Bromir is fighting Lirim and another warrior. Now Bromir will be shielding and he sets the bar at a 2. That is not good. Lirim is next, he gets a 6, which means they win the fight. They will both need 5s and Lirim will start. He gets a 4 and the other warrior gets a 2. Next we have Stuartlim with the spare support of Chiuhin against 2 elves with hand and half a weapon. And they will strike with their 2-hander, so they get a -1 penalty on these 2 attacks, which is a 5 turning down to a 4. Now Stuartlim has 3 attacks and he will be next. He gets a 4, that is not good, and Chiuhin, his spear support, gets a 6, which means they win the fight. Stuartlim will need 5s to slay the elves, and he gets 1 5, slaying one of them. The spear support also need 5s and he gets a 3. Next we have a Watcher supported by Murad against 3 elves and a man. Let's see how they do, starting with the Watcher. He has 2 attacks, sorry about that. And he gets a 5. Murad supporting him, getting a 6. Alright, so the elf with the 2-handed weapon will not need to strike because he cannot do anything about that 6 from Murad. But the man behind can do something and he gets a 5, that's not good enough. And the 2 elves with spear and shield gets a 6, which means they win on fight value. Starting with the elves with spear and shield, they need 4 up to kill the Watcher and they get it. The Watcher is slain. Getting into priority for the next turn, it goes to the evil force. Alright, so this is how it turned out. The warg pony thingies went over there to try to get around this pillar, negating the charge of the last alliance. However, 2 of the warriors got into combat with the ones in the front, trying to stop them. Over here we have lots of combats favoring the last alliance, so these archers got closer, and so did they. But them, but they would have to be able to shoot their bows. Let's get into the shoot phase. Simonir will fire at Jacobin, needing a 4 up to hit, and he hits. Now he will need 5s, and he gets a 2, and that is not good enough. The 2 other archers will fire at Jacobin as well, and they get nothing. Alright, so we'll start with Louison. He has a free heroic combat every turn, and he will use that against Shlurim. Now he will fight two-handedly, and he gets a 6, which is turned to a 5, and Shlurim is next getting a 4. Louison has a strength of 4, but he swings with his two-handed weapon and needs 3s to wound Shlurim. And he gets it. Shlurim needs to take a save here, a fate roll, and he saves. That is lucky, unless or else Louison would be able to charge into another combat. Next we have Jeremiah against Carsonil and a friend, and Jeremiah will set the bar and he gets a 5. Carsonil is next and he has only 1 attack, but he gets a 6. Jeremiah will use a point of might, turning his 5 into a 6, and that means that it is a roll-off. But first he can use the Blade Master and reroll one of his dice, but that doesn't help. So, as I said, he uses 1 point of might, tying the match because both of them has a fight of 4. 4 to 6, it goes to good, and it does. And this is unfortunate because Jeremiah has only defense of 4, and the Carsonil and the older man of Numenor has a strength of 4. So they will need 4s to wound Jeremiah. Carsonil will go first and he gets a 2, and the other man gets a 3. Next we have Bromir with spear support against Lyrium and another spearman, and the good side will set the bar. They get a 5 and the evil side gets a 2. Needing 4s to kill the spearman, and they get a 4. The spearman is slain. Next we have Stuartlim with the spear support from Chiuhin against 2 elves and a man, and Stuartlim will start. He gets a 5 and Chiuhin gets a 5 as well. Now the Numenorian man is next and he gets a 4, and the elf with the hand-and-a-half weapon gets a 1. The elf with spear and shield is next and he gets a 1 as well, which means that they lose the fights. As the defense values are the same, he will prioritize the Numenorian man and then the elf. So he will try to slay them, needing 5s. And he gets 2 5s. That is incredible, because these are regular warriors, so they are just slain. Next we have an elf against Murad, and the elf will start getting a 6, which means he wins on fight value. Needing a 5 to kill, and he gets it. Fate roll for Murad, and he fails and is slain by the elf. Next we have an elf with a two-handed weapon against a pony warg, and the elf gets a 6, which is turned down to a 5. The pony warg gets a 3. The elf will need a 4 to kill, and he gets a 5, so the pony warg is slain. Next, a Numenorian against another pony warg, and the Numenorian gets a 3. The pony warg gets a 2. Needing 4s to kill, and he gets it. The warg pony is slain. Priority for the next turn goes to the evil side. Alright, so the evil forest tries to tie up as many models as possible, but these 2 warriors that have a light object moved into combat with this warg pony over here. Now these archers stood still, trying to shoot out the wargs on their way towards freedom. Starting with Simonir, firing at the furthest warg pony. He needs a 3 up to hit because he stood still, and he hits. Now he will need 5s, and he gets a 2, so if he uses his free point of might, turn that to a 3, and both of his might points turning that into a 5, he will slay the pony. The other 2 elves will fire at the other pony warg that is not in combat. They need a 3 up to hit, and they get 2 hits. Now they need 5s, and they get 1 5, which slays this pony as well. Going into the fight phase, this elf is fighting 2 of the warriors of Karna, including Shlurim and Lyrim, and he will be shielding against them. Now he gets a 4, Shlurim gets a 5, and Lyrim gets a 4, so he loses against them. They will need 6s to win because of the shield, and they get the 6, and the elf is slain. Next we have Stuartlim with spear support against an elf with shield and spear, and the elf will be shielding, and he sets the bar, getting a 3. Stuartlim is next, and he gets a 6, winning the fight. Stuartlim will need 6s to kill, and he gets nothing, and his friend Chiuhin gets a 1. But Stuartlim has might remaining, I believe. Yes, it does, so he will use his might point, turning his 5 into a 6, slaying the elf. Alright, so I forgot the free heroic combat to Louison, and he will do that. Now he will set the bar, swinging two-handedly of course, getting a 4 turned down to a 3. Jacobim gets a 1. And Louison with his strength of 4 will need 3s to kill Jacobim, and he gets a 5. Jacobim has fate and will try to save, and he fails. He is slain by Louison. And that means that Louison can move again, and he will try to charge into Jeremiah, but then will need to take a courage test, and he gets a 5, and he has a courage of 5, so that is good. He can go into combat with Jeremiah. And that is the next combat. Jeremiah will set the bar against his 3 adversaries, getting a 5. Louison is next, and he gets a 4, which is turned to a 3. Bromir is next, and he gets a 3, and the last man gets a 3 as well. Louison has the Blade Master, so he can re-roll one of his dice. He needs a 6, and he gets a 5. He will use a might point, turning that into a 6, and that means that they win on fight value. Louison will strike first, and he will need 3s to wound, and he gets the 6, which means Jeremiah takes a wound. He can try to save. I believe he still has fate. Jeremiah, yes, you have fates. You can try to save, and you save. Next we have Bromir, and he needs a 4-up, and he gets the wound. If the Numenorian gets a 4-up, Jeremiah is slain, and he does, unfortunately for him. Lastly, we have an archer against Carsonil and a friend. The archer sets the bar, getting a 2. Carsonil is next, getting a 6, winning the fight. Carsonil needs a 4-up, and he gets it. The archer is slain. Alright, that was a devastating turn for the Karna warband, and they are halved. If they take one more casualty, the game is done. So let's see who gets priority. It goes to... Whoa, it's a tie, so it goes to the last alliance. Alright, so the last alliance went from these 2 objectives over to these 2, claiming them for themselves, sending one more warrior. I believe it's Bromir. Bromir going over through the 3rd one, and they tied up all of the other models in close combats, and their archers moved closer full distance. Now let's get into the fight phase. Starting with Stuart Lim, he sets the bar with his 3 attacks, getting a 6, and I believe that means he wins the fight. The Numenorian can tie the fight with a roll of a 6, and he gets it! 4 to 6 goes to good, and it does. Needing 4s to wound Stuart Lim, and he gets a 2. Next we have Chiwin against a Numenorian man, and Chiwin sets the bar, getting a 5, the Numenorian gets a 1. Needing 5s to kill the Numenorian, and he gets the 5, it's slain. Next we have Carsonil against Shlurim, and Carsonil sets the bar, getting a 5, Shlurim gets a 6. Carsonil has a point of might, so he will turn his 5 into a 6, winning the fight on fight value. Winning on fight value. Needing 4s to kill, and nope. Once again, I forgot the heroic combat to Louison. Let's see if it made a difference. He will set the bar, and he gets a 5, which is turned to a 4, and Lirim gets a 2. Lirim has fate and can try to save, and he does not. He is slain. And that means, my friends, that the last alliance are victorious. They control 3 of the objectives, and the enemy controls none of them. And they have been quartered, so the game ends. Congratulations to the last alliance, and to Osgiliath. It was a good victory this day. Let's get into the post-battle. Alright, so welcome to the post-battle. We will go over the scoreboard. This is the next to last game. The last game will be next week. And let's start over here with the last alliance. They have 16 points. And Karna is next. They have 19 points. Osgiliath has 18, and that is also true for Cirith Ungol. And that means that Karna is in the lead by 1 point, and in their heels we have Osgiliath and the Cirith Ungol. Last lines are in last place, but with a victory they may tie with Karna. So everything and anything can happen, and yeah, so we will go into the post-battle now. The first thing I will say is that every battle company will get a full recovery on all of their warriors, and all battle wounds, arm wounds and leg wounds will be cured. And that is, I want the battle companies to be at full capacity in the last game, so that is that. The next thing we will do is advancements and reinforcements. Alright, starting with the advancements for the last alliance, these two warriors got enough experience. Starting with the right one, he gets a 1 and the other one gets a 3, so no advancements for them. Next we have Louison on the path of the warrior and he gets a 7 and that is fight value to a maximum of 6. Well, he has 5, so he will get a fight value of 6. Next we have Karzonil and he is on the path of the general, he gets a 9. And that is strength or defense, can only be improved once. I guess he has strength of 5, so he can take a defense value to 5, which means with his shield he has a defense of 6. Alright, so they have 6 influence points to spend, and the first roll is a 4, which is turned to a 5, and that is a high elf warrior. The next roll is a 5, which is turned to a 6, and that is a high elf warrior with choice of weaponry. And that means we will give them one with spear and shield. Next we have Karna's advancements, and we will start with this warrior over here, this watcher. On a 6 he becomes a hero, and he does. Next we have Jacobim on the path of the ranger, and he gets an 8, and that is pinpoint shots. Reroll to wound rolls of a 1, and I believe he does not have that from before. No, he does not, so he will get that. I'm sorry, no, he will not, because he has poisoned arrows already. So I will rule that he can roll again. And he gets a 7 this time, and that means that he increases his shoot value to a 3+. Next we have Jackson L also on the path of the ranger, and he gets a 7, and that is shoot, but he already has a shoot of 3+, so he will roll again, getting a 4. Expert shot, that means that he can choose, or he can shoot twice in the shoot phase. Lastly we have Stuart Lim on the path of the general, and he gets a 6, and that is fight to a maximum of 6, and that means that he gets a fight value of 5. Alright, so they have 3 influence points to spend, and they will roll on the reinforcement table. They get a 4, which is turned to a 5, and that is an Haradrim warrior with bow. Alright, moving over to Osgiliath, starting with the warriors. There are a lot, starting with a knight. On a 6 he becomes a hero, and he does not. And we have the warrior with shield in the middle, and he is not a hero. And the last one is not a hero as well. Alright, starting from the left on the heroes, Tylero once again got an upgrade, and he is on the path of the warrior. He gets a 10, and that is might or will. That means that he has 3 might. That is awesome. Malarsian is next on the path of the ranger, and he gets an 8, and that is pinpoint shots. He already has that one. Rolling again, steady aim. He already has that one as well. Next we got 3 seasoned archer. He has that one as well. He has almost all the rules, I believe. 6, steady aim, nope, try again. Double ones, master archer may declare a heroic shoot each turn without expending might, so he will get that one. Next we have Hobtor, and he will choose the path of the warrior, and he gets double ones, which is parry. May force their opponent to reroll a single d6, that is nice. And lastly we have Virlin, who will be on the path of the ranger, and he gets a 5, which is attack or wound, so we will give him 1 more wound. As for reinforcements, Osgiliath has 14 models and 5 influence points, so they will roll on the reinforcement table, getting a 1, which is turned to a 2, and they can use up to 2 points as well. So I think they will use 1 point, getting a warrior of Minas Tirith with spear and shield. For Cirith Ungol there was only 1 upgrade, and that is Jonner, and he will roll on the path of the warrior, getting a 9, and that is Blade Master. He does not have that one, so he will take it. That means that he can re-roll a single d6 in a duel. Alright, so for reinforcements for Cirith Ungol, they are 15 models strong and cannot have any more models. However, they have some influence points left over. So what I will do, I will give every model, and because I believe they have 11, and they are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 models. So I will give them all poisoned weapons, so they can re-roll to wound rolls of a 1. The giant spiders already have poison, so this works out nicely. So this will be Cirith Ungol, Chrysalis Crushers, the poisonous army. Alright, so this is it for now. I'm looking forward for the last battle. It will be exciting. It is really close in regards to score, so everything or anything can happen. Alright, everyone, see you next time.